Hi everyone, and welcome to this month's Once Upon a Book Club review. And this month we read The Appeal by Janice Hallett. Now, as we do every month, I'll talk about what I thought of the book we read, and then if there is anyone in the chat, then you can weigh in with your opinions and what you thought of it. I don't have anyone else with me tonight. It's just me. It is if you're watching this on a catch up, then it is the 30th of December. So obviously people are busy, between Christmas and New Year. So I'm not expecting many people in the chat, and I didn't really expect anybody to come and join me on camera. Going forward, before I get into the book review, we do have a Facebook group for the book club, and I will put a link to that in the description box below if anybody wants to go over and join. It's a private group, so you'll have to click join and then I'll let you in. And at the end of each month, we pick 3 or 4 books, and then we vote on which one that we want to read for the next month. So after tonight, if anybody's got any suggestions for January's book, please put them in the comments and we'll get a poll up, and then we can choose. And the one with the most votes we will read in January. And again, we will do a live at the end of January. So I'll just check and see if anyone is in the chat. Yeah, Maureen. Hi, Maureen. Libel. Hi, Libel. Hope you both had a lovely Christmas. Hi, Sue. Sue hasn't read the book. That's fine. You can still join in, and I hope I probably will be giving some spoilers away, so maybe block your ears if you don't want to hear them, but it's good to have you here. So, like I said, we are going to be talking about The Appeal by Janice Hallett. I think this was come out a few years ago, actually. I'll just check the date in the front. I've had it on my bookshelf a while. I think this has been out since, I can't see a date, but I think it has been out maybe 2 or 3 years, if not longer. Yeah, I definitely can't see a date on there. But I've just got round to reading it, and I could not put this down. Maureen says she hasn't read the book either. Well, if you want to read it, then I am going to be telling you what happens tonight. So hopefully that's not going to spoil your enjoyment if you do read the book. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I couldn't put it down. I think I read this in 2 or 3 days. Now, it is a slightly different format to anything I've ever read before. And it is written in the form of emails and newspaper clippings, text messages. So the really short sections, which I found quite good. It was like you got to the end of one email. You know how normally when you read a book, you might want to read to the end of the chapter before you put it down. This one, because the sections are so short, you get to the end of one section and you think, I'll just read the next one, and I'll just read the next one. And there kind of wasn't really any chapters as such. So yeah, I really did enjoy the format. For anybody who has read it and didn't enjoy the format, let me know in the comments if you didn't. But I would be quite happy to read a book in that format again. So the premise of the book is, it starts off with a senior partner in a law firm sending an email to some what I think are junior lawyers, and he wants them to go through all of the information they've got for this case. So lots of emails and texts and messages. He wants them to go through them, and he wants them to say what their opinion is of what they think of this murder, because there is a murder in it. Obviously, it says on the front, 1 murder, 15 suspects. Can you uncover the truth? But you don't actually find out that you don't find out who's been murdered until quite a way on in the book. I think it's about 3/4 of the way. and you don't know who the murderer is, so you're pretty much the detective as well. So he wants these two junior lawyers to see what they think, because the person who there's been someone put in prison for this murder, and this senior partner doesn't actually think this person is guilty. So he wants the junior lawyers to tell him what they think, so they can go for an appeal and get this person out. So it's basically, it's set around an amateur dramatics group called the Fairway Players, and it's emails between all of these people in the Fairway Players about, you know, putting on the plays they're putting on. And it turns out that the guy Martin and his wife Helen, who run the book, who run the group, their granddaughter Poppy has been diagnosed with cancer, and they want to start an appeal because apparently there's a treatment from America that can help her and can cure this cancer that they don't have in the UK. It is set in the UK. Now, I know there is people in here from other countries, and I'm not sure if they've changed the book to have it set in the country that you are situated in, because I know some of the covers are different, so maybe some of the story is different from where it's set. But they want to start this fundraising appeal to get to 250,000, so they can get this cure from America. So that is the premise of the story, and then there is a murder, and you have to work out who is the murderer and who actually got killed. So I'm just going to check through the comments. Sue says she's here even though she hasn't read the book. Maureen hasn't read the book either. Carol read it and she liked the format. Libel says that's why you couldn't put it down. The sections were short, about the length of a news flash. Probably right, Libel. Hi, Linda. Good to see you. Carol says she's a bad detective. I kept changing my mind. I liked the character Izzy. I found her emails funny. That's strange you should say that, Carol, because at the beginning I did quite like Isabel, or Izzy. I felt a little bit sorry for her, but I think as the book went on, I got a bit irritated with her. She turned out to be quite, well, a little bit psychotic, really. And this is a spoiler. Izzy does get put in prison for the murder of Sam, who is her best friend, as she says. Turns out all these things are in Isabel's head. Did anybody twig that Lauren wasn't a real person when they were reading it? I kind of twigged quite early on that I thought this was maybe a figment of Isabel's imagination. Did anybody else think that as they were reading it? I don't know what made us think it. I just think because everybody else in the email exchanges didn't think very much of Isabel. They were a bit short with her, or a bit not very tolerant of her. And then there's this Lauren character who's sending emails to Izzy saying she was wonderful, and I just thought, is this person real? So I would like to know what you thought if you had twigged that Lauren wasn't real either. And also, Libel says, I don't think I would get excited with a book consisting of emails. It sounds to me like trying to do a modern version of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was written in Diaries of the Diaries. Yeah, Libel, I did read Bram Stoker's Dracula many years ago, and I couldn't remember it being written like that. Did you actually read The Appeal? Carol says she's from the US and my book was set in England. I think we have done a book before, Carol, where was it Good Girl's Guide to Murder, where it was actually set somewhere else? I think it was you who had said that. But in The Appeal, it turns out that Poppy, the granddaughter who has supposedly got this cancer, doesn't actually have cancer, and the fundraising is all a scam cooked up by Martin, who is the head of the Amdram Society and Poppy's granddad, and the consultant who is looking after Poppy. It's all been cooked up by them to get some money. Martin, because his business is failing and he needs some money, and I think the consultant, she wants the money to help her elderly parents who are living in a very expensive retirement home. And I found that a little bit difficult to swallow as well, because I'm not sure that a consultant, it didn't feel real that a consultant would actually do that, that would pretend one of the patients had cancer when they actually didn't. So I don't know that I believed that. Linda says, because she listened to the audio version, every heading, time, date, a topic was read out, which you might skim in the physical book. Yeah, I don't know if I could have listened to the audio version, Linda. I think, did you say you swapped to Kindle version after the first few chapters? I think that was you that said it in the book club. But yeah, I found the bit where I mean, I had no problem believing that somebody would scam a fundraising thing, because you do hear lots of things like that. I did find the part that it was cooked up by Martin and I think she's called Tish, the consultant. I found that a little bit hard to believe. Did anybody else feel that? I mean, one of the questions that I've got written down here, because I usually Google what questions are good to ask for book club reviews. Was there any of the characters that you liked? And I don't actually think I liked any of the characters in this book. I thought they were all flawed. I mean, people are flawed, but I didn't think any of them were particularly likable. Like I say, I did like Izzy in the beginning. I thought she was a bit sad and a bit irritating, and I felt a bit sorry for her. But is the more psychotic part of her came out, where she really, really thought she was Sam's best friend and they were going to go to Africa together. She kind of made up a whole host of things that just weren't true. I kind of got really irritated by her. So I don't think I liked any of the characters in particular, which is always hard, I think, when you're reading a book, because you need to have someone to like. But I think because I enjoyed the story so much, it didn't really matter to us. And was there any characters that I disliked? I'd probably say Izzy by the end. I just didn't like her at all. Linda says, because you listen to the audio, I've just read that bit. Pauline says, great to see you, Karen, enjoying this reminder. It's great to see you in here as well, Pauline. Thanks for joining me. Linda says she looked on Kindle to work out who was who. Yeah, there was quite a lot of characters in this story. And there was a lot, it felt like there was a lot of storylines within the story. So you had the storyline of Poppy being ill, and you had the storyline of the parents and the grandparents trying to raise money for the treatment. You had the backstory from the consultant, who had a brother in Africa who had also been in trouble, and turned out that Sam, who had been murdered, had a bad experience with her brother. And then there was the fact that the Poppy's aunt and uncle were having twins, and they'd had to have IVF, and it just seemed to be a lot. And then you had Sam and Sam's husband Kel. You had their friends come in, a guy called Arnie, who also had some issues, and there was just a lot of different pieces of the story that kind of seemed to be squashed in where they didn't need to be. Like this Arnie character, I didn't quite see what his purpose was. What did anyone else think of the characters in the appeal, if you read the book? Linda, what was your thoughts? I want to see thoughts in the chats. Maureen says, by what you say, I don't think I would have liked it. By what you say, I don't think I would have liked it. Yeah, it was. I mean, strangely, having said all that, I did really like the book. As usual, I've written it down in my little journal that I started keeping for the book club. This is the one for December, The Appeal, and I have given it 4 stars. These here are kind of most of the characters, but there were some that I haven't put on there. There were a lot of characters in that. So it was hard to keep. I had to keep flicking back to the beginning that had the list of characters in it to see who was who, because at the beginning it was a little bit confusing, especially because it's all emails. And then kind of partway through the book, in periods throughout the book, you would get these 2 young lawyers coming back to give their thoughts in between all of the information they had, all of the emails. And I found towards the end of the book, where you were getting the lawyers' thoughts and they were summing up what they thought of the whole thing, you would get much longer passages. So as opposed to the small emails, you would get kind of big passages like that would go on for a couple of pages. And I found it difficult to switch between the two, from the really short passages to the long passages. I think if it had all been long, then that would have been fine. And if it had all been emails, that would have been fine. But to use both slightly confused us. Carol says, all the characters were the suspects. They all could have done it. I had to keep my own list of characters. I did like that part, Carol. I did feel like I was trying to solve the murder myself, which in an ordinary book, you don't necessarily feel like that. You want to know who's done it, but you don't necessarily feel like you have all the information to help you solve it. So I did like that aspect of it. Linda says, I think I would have enjoyed a straightforward version of the book. Good description of characters, but the format annoyed me. Yeah, I think that is a case for a lot of people, Linda. I've read some reviews on Goodreads where they've said they found the format annoying. And some people have actually said they found the fact that the characters were using email annoying because they didn't feel people would use email. They would more likely have like a WhatsApp group or texts, or just pick up the phone and ring somebody. They don't think they would have used email. And I can see the point, but I'm not entirely sure what year that was supposed to be set. So maybe things like WhatsApp and texts were less popular than email. But yeah, I can see why the format would annoy people. Did you like it overall, Linda? And while I've just showed you my reading journal, does anybody else keep a reading journal? I've found it quite interesting to do that, actually, because if I've finished the book like a couple of weeks before doing this, I've usually forgotten what the book's about. So I find it helpful to write it down, just to remind myself. Even just writing the list of characters is a good jog of memory, I've found. And if we jump to the ending, so this is definitely a spoiler, you find that Isabel has been put in prison. She has been accused of the murder, and she actually admitted to it. But you find out that it wasn't actually her that murdered Sam. It was James, who was the son of Martin. And I thought that was a little bit far-fetched. I wasn't entirely invested in that ending. I thought that was a bit strange. And I did understand why Izzy had taken the blame for James, because she wanted to be in with everybody. She wanted to be seen as liked by everybody. And I suppose she thought if she did that, then James and the rest of the amateur dramatics team would think she was wonderful, which, considering she was a bit psychotic anyway, it kind of makes sense. Maureen says she does a reading journal. Do you enjoy that, Maureen? Do you find it helpful in remembering what the book was about? Carol said she did keep notes so she wouldn't forget. If you're watching this on catch up, the reason I read the comments out is because once the live is over and it's on YouTube, you can't actually see the comments. So I read the comments out so you know what people said on the night. Linda said, I think the author wanted to bump up the word count. Yes, I've started a journal and enjoyed the book overall. That's an interesting thing about bumping up the word count. Do you think her editors have said to her, we need 75,000 words, and she's thought, oh, how can I do that? Yeah, I'll put in more emails. Because there was some actual characters in there whose emails are included that kind of were nothing emails. There were kind of people saying, oh, I'm sorry about your granddaughter, and people saying, I want my money back from the fundraising now that it's a scam. And so, yeah, but I think she was trying to throw in lots of red herrings there. Hi, Claire. Good to have you here. Maureen says, yes, she does enjoy keeping a reading journal because she reads so many books she would forget. How many books do you think you've read in 2024, Maureen? I haven't read as many as I would have liked to. I think I have a reading goal for 2025. I would like to read 24 books next year. So if I read one a month for the book club, which is very doable, I just need to read an extra one every month to make up my 24. Yeah, it would be interesting, Linda, wouldn't it, to know if that's what our editor said to her and she thought, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So if you have any suggestions for books for next month, feel free to leave them in the comments. Also, if you've read any books this year that you'd like to suggest to everybody else, put that in the comments as well. Libel says she read Medieval Woman. It's a real life story of a woman in medieval times written as a story and describing her feelings about multiple child loss, marriage, church, etc. Interesting. Claire says, sorry to be late. I actually enjoyed the appeal. No need to apologise, Claire. I'm pleased you enjoyed it. For having had that book on my shelf for quite a few months, I was really surprised how much I did enjoy it. Maureen says she reads about 5 to 6 books a month. Wow, Maureen, that's a lot. I think I read more when I'm on holiday, but as if I haven't been on holiday since March this year, I haven't really had the opportunity to read very much. Claire says the format made for quick reading. Yeah, that's what we were saying at the beginning, Claire, that it meant that you didn't stop at the natural end of a chapter because there was no chapters. You'd kind of read an email and think, I'll just read the next email, or I just need to read the next one. It was like snooping on people, really, wasn't it? Which I kind of guess that's what the idea was. But yeah. Maureen says she is 90 this year and haven't got much else to do. I find that amazing, Maureen, 90 years old and on YouTube. The amount of people who say, oh, I can't do, I can't be on YouTube, I can't do technical stuff at my age when they're only like 60. I just think that's brilliant. And why not spend all your time reading? I think that sounds like a good thing to do. It's nice to see so many people in the chat, actually, considering it is between Christmas and New Year. So, Libel, is that what the book's called? Medieval Woman? We'll check that out. Has anybody read any other books by Janice Hallett? I do have another one on my bookshelf. Just grab it. I have one called The Twyford Code. It's time to solve the murder of the century. Is this written in the same way? This is written in audio files. So it's extracts from audio files, this book. So rather than emails, the entries are a little bit longer. So yeah, I will definitely read that one. And I think she's got 2 or 3 others out as well. Sue says, what books did people get for Christmas? I got 2 little, what I would call coffee table books. I got a little book of positive quotes, and I got a book of dream interpretations, which quite interests me. But I did actually buy myself some books. I'll just pick those off the shelf. Yeah, so I bought myself some books. I got the sequel to Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. I picked up 3 books in the works because it was 3 for $6. I got The Forgotten Shore by Sarah Main. I got The Secret of Villa Alba by Louise Douglas. Pretty sure I read a book by Louise Douglas before. And I got number 23, Burlington Square by Jenny Keir. Has anybody read any of those? I love recommendations for books. I'm quite open to reading, an eclectic mix of books. Libel says there's no specific author to it. It's just called Medieval Woman. I think it was written by historians. I'll take a look at that, Libel. Maureen says, I belong to Kindle Unlimited and prefer to read on my Kindle. Yeah, I think I've talked about this before, Maureen, that I do have books on my Kindle. And for eyesight reasons, it is a lot easier to read on a Kindle. I don't know. I just can get more into a book if it's an actual book. And I find it easier to go back if I've missed something. Yeah, but I dip in and out of Kindle Unlimited. So I'll have a subscription for a while and then I'll cancel it. I think because you end up with hundreds of books on your Kindle and you think, I'm not reading them. Like Libel says, oh my God, I am so boring. I treated myself to the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe and Mary Shelley. You sound like a bit of a highbrow reader, Libel. I'm not sure that the books in this group may be up your street. Would I be right? I haven't read many kind of classics myself. I recently read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'm assuming that's a classic. Lots of people have talked about it over the years, and I really enjoyed that actually. But I don't read a lot of classics. Maureen says she liked The Island by Victoria Heslop. Has anybody else read it? Is that the one about the island in Crete where the lepers went? Because if that's the right one, which I think it is, yes, I've read it. And I actually went to Crete maybe about five years ago now, and we visited, I can't remember what that island's called now. I can't remember what the island's called, but we did visit that island when we were there, and I just found that fascinating. Claire says she has the American version and the only difference was the financial amounts were given in American dollars. I found that distracting. Was that because it was set in England, Claire? I have heard somebody else say that actually. It's set in England. Why are you talking in dollars? Maybe they forgot to change that. Yeah, Maureen, I'm sure the island's got in. Was it Spinalonga? Spinalonga, that was it. Really, really loved that book and loved the fact that I could go to the island as well. Libel says she also has Daphne. I do have another book by Daphne du Maurier. I can't remember what it's called and I haven't read it yet, but I will get around to reading it. Sue says she can't get on with Kindle. I love to hold a book. Not read much at all this year as we've moved and renovated the house. 24 seems doable for the next year. Should we have a book club challenge then to see if we can read 24 books in 2025? Let's all start a journal and keep a record of the ones we read. Libel says her granddaughters are 12, 2 and 1. Nice ages. Yeah, my grandkids are 8 and 5, and as yet they're not book readers. They used to love a book when they were like 2. They used to really enjoy me reading them a book, but they don't seem to be into that so much anymore, which is a shame. I'm going to have to get them back into it. Claire said she did not guess Lauren was imaginary, but wondered why they were still corresponding when they had experienced past negative work conditions. Yeah, I did think the emails from Lauren were quite interesting, and like I said, I did think quite early on she wasn't real, but when you found out she wasn't, and you found out more about Isabel, I think it made a lot of sense. Carol said, I thought it was in dollars because they were buying medicine from America. Yeah, that is possible, Carol. Good point. I was listening to there's a podcast which is also on YouTube called This Is Entertainment, and Richard Osman, I can't remember the woman's name, they do it. And Richard Osman is the guy who wrote the Thursday Murder Club books, and he was talking about how his books needed to be changed for the American market, and it was quite interesting to listen to, actually. You know, some words had to be changed, some things we say needed to be changed because Americans wouldn't kind of get it. But yeah, that was quite interesting. Libel says British TV did a lot of crime stories out of Daphne du Maurier's stories, not only Rebecca. I haven't actually watched the film Rebecca, purely because I've read the book, and I always think the TV versions or the film versions aren't as good. Maureen says at the moment she is reading The Lost Diary by Rose Alexander. That sounds interesting, Maureen. Are you enjoying it? I actually read a book that was on one of our poll lists a couple of months ago, but it wasn't chosen as the book to read, and that was The Midnight House. Again, I can't remember. I don't know where it's gone. I can't remember who it's by. The Midnight House it was called, and I really did enjoy that as well. Maureen says The Lost Diary is very good. So maybe we could put The Lost Diary on our book club for January, or put it on the polling list for then. I'll just make a note. Find my pen. The Lost Diary. So I'll put this poll in the YouTube community page, and I will also link to it on the Facebook group, so you can all vote on which book you want to read in January. How long does it take everyone to read a book club book? I think like I said, it took me 2 or 3 days to read this one. I tried to leave it till later in the month so it's more fresh in my mind, but I don't want to leave it too late that I don't get it finished. Libel says the original 1950s version of Rebecca is what got me to read her more. Free to watch on YouTube. That's good to know. Claire says she liked Femi and Charlotte. Yeah, Femi and Charlotte, for anybody who doesn't know, were the young lawyers that were tasked with going through all of the evidence to see what they thought. I think that would be such a fun job to do. Well, maybe not fun, but that would be a really interesting job, actually, to sift through all of that. And Maureen says she leaves it later in the month to read the book. Yeah, I do feel like if I started to read it the first week of the month, then I would definitely need to do the reading journal, but I may actually need to flick through the book again later in the month before I do the live to remember what it's about. Memory's not what it used to be as you get older, is it? I don't know if there's any books that I particularly want to put on the list for January, but like I say, please feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments on this video or leave them in the Facebook group. I think I can put 4 options in the poll. So if there's more than 4, I have to kind of be selective into which ones I think people would like to read the most. I think we have had some quite harrowing books in the past. So even though this was a murder, the appeal I did, and there was a cancer storyline in it, which seems to be everywhere at the moment that I look, which is a little bit triggering. it would be nice to read something a little bit more upbeat, I think, in the new year. So did anybody else get any books for Christmas? I know somebody asked that question earlier on. Did Linda ask that? Who asked it? Just flicking back, I can't see it now. Or Sue said, what books did people get for Christmas? Did you get any books for Christmas, Sue? I love getting books for Christmas because sometimes people buy you books that you hadn't thought of. I know sometimes I'll say, if I'm out shopping with my daughter and I'll see a book, I went, oh, that should go on the Christmas list, and she usually take a picture of it. Libel says she did read one book in December, the Gospel of Luke. The Gospel of Luke. It has exactly 24 chapters, and I finished reading it one day before Christmas Day. I found it uplifting. Do you mean the in the Bible, the Gospel of Luke, or is this a book I'm unfamiliar with? I noticed as well, Claire, you said in the Facebook group that the cover of the Appeal was different for the American market than it was for the UK market. I always like to see the different covers. Linda didn't get any books for Christmas, but you did give book tokens to 3 of my grandchildren. That's a great idea, Linda. How old are your grandchildren? Like I say, my grandkids, they loved me reading books to them when they were about 2. But in the last year or so, they're 8 and 5, they're kind of moving away from books, which I think is a shame. They need to get back into them. But I think when they start school and they're made to read books, they don't want to read books. Ibel says, yes, I never read anything in the Bible before. I never read anything in the Bible before. I found the Gospel of Luke awesome. The Bible's definitely not something I've ever read. Linda says our grandchildren range from 12 to 21. Wow. That's a big age range. That's a lot of Christmas presents to buy. So, on the whole, did everybody like the storyline of the Appeal? Was it just the format that people didn't like? Because I quite enjoyed both. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I'm on thinking about it. The 4 stars, maybe 3.5. I've been generous with 4 stars, I think, but I did enjoy it, and I must have kept us reading because I read it quickly. So I think I'm going to end the video there. It's maybe a little bit shorter than what we would normally do. I usually have someone on with us and somebody to bounce off, so it's a little bit more difficult keeping the kind of conversation going on my own. But so I hope you've enjoyed it, and like I said, leave your suggestions for books to read for January in the comments or on the Facebook group, and we will get the poll up. Claire says she's gone to a community theatre production. She went to a community theatre production on December the 14th with a friend whose brother was one of the actors. She told me about various problems between cast members, different personalities. Yes, I can quite imagine. I used to work in a theatre. My first job was actually in a local, it wasn't Amdram, it was a local theatre, and I really, really enjoyed working there. But yeah, there are a lot of different personalities in a cast, most definitely. Sue says she's got some sons and grandsons and have struggled to get them to read, whereas friends with girls have been real bookworms. Has anyone else found that? Yeah, I think you're right there, Sue. I was always a reader when I was younger, and my daughter was as well. My son didn't tend to read much until he was older, but now he's quite an avid reader. So maybe, yeah, you could be right there. Thanks, Libel. Maureen says, can you leave a link for the FBP page, please, Karen? I'll just get it for you, Maureen. and I will leave it in the comments below this video on YouTube. In fact, I think you're in the Facebook group, Maureen. I'm pretty sure you are. Claire said I was relating the book to what was going on among that cast. No murders, though. That's interesting. Sue says, yeah, my sons as men read a lot. So maybe they don't read much as children, but once they're older, they're into it. Linda says she does have a book on its way to me, written by a friend of my son. We'll post on FB page as soon as I can remember what it's called. That would be good, Linda. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed my review. The consensus was I loved the book. So continue to comment below if you're watching this video after the live. I'm happy to read your comments and come over to the Facebook group and chat about anything books. So I'll see you again. Well, I'll see you again on some ordinary videos quite soon, but I'll see you again on a book club live at the end of January. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Oh, and yeah, have a great New Year's Eve and Happy New Year. So bye for now.